Hello and welcome back to the Spiritual Laws Diaries. Today, we are going to dive deep into the law of polarity. As you can tell, polarity, polar opposites. If you don't already know, what the law states is nothing exists without the opposite extreme. Everybody forgets that it exists everywhere. Everything has an opposite, everything has a cycle. The very basic ones: light and dark, life and death, happy and sad. And in spirituality, you can't feel and achieve success without failure. Once you understand this law, nothing really feels too bad. You kind of stop resisting the bad and embrace it because you know that no matter what, the opposite will come back to you. And it will come back to you because it is necessary, it is inevitable, and it is for your own good. Everything exists in duality. Everything in the universe exists in pairs of opposites. Hot and cold, love and hate. They're just opposite, but they're the same. They're just the two extreme ends of a spectrum. You can't have one without the other. Think of a magnet. Think of the famous phrase, opposites attract. Why do they attract? Because they need each other. They cannot exist without each other. So they'll always be connected. They cannot be separated. But people love to separate them and view them way differently. But in reality, without them, there wouldn't be any balance in life, in you, the universe. For example, let's say there's a very spoiled rich child that has always been said yes to since birth. You cannot blame the child for throwing a tantrum and not understanding the value and concept of money. You cannot blame them for not understanding what it's like to live in poverty because they've always lived in wealth. And that goes for the basic human emotions. If you never truly experienced loneliness, you would have never really appreciated connection. And same thing goes for the spoiled child. They can't understand poverty. They can't understand the feeling of what it's like being poor and empathize with it because they have never felt it. They only had felt one extreme. If you're always happy, you don't actually appreciate happy moments. You don't appreciate what it's like to be on a very high if you haven't experienced the lows. So if life was always easy, you'd have no concept of strength and resilience. Someone who has always been at the top, always surrounded by success but has not worked for it, will not understand this ambition, this drive that a lot of people have. But you can't blame them. This is why the contrast gives meaning to everything. The truth is, contrast creates clarity. When you're being shown something you don't want, it can be fear, it can be sad, you actually are being shown and exposed to what you truly want. If you don't like a certain situation, you know you don't want to be in that situation ever again in the future, and you can now avoid it. You can change your life. You can change your reality. When someone goes through a very toxic relationship, they are being shown every single standard and boundary they need to set themselves, because they know exactly what they want to avoid, what they don't stand for, which reveals what they actually want to find in a partner. Their mind is now clear on what a real, healthy love life should actually be. Even if they haven't felt it before, they see what the other extreme end is and can compare to what the other extreme is. Even though it hurts in the moment, even though it feels like it's so unfair, when people go through very negative moments, they actually are shown they aren't punishment. They are actually a blessing in disguise. What are they? They're information. So you're being shown the other extreme end, so then you can choose what to do consciously to change it. The truth is, you cannot escape the darkness. You cannot escape the negativity. You cannot escape the lows. We live in a world where we always strive for the positive, keep a positive mindset, manifest good things, everything to avoid pain. But the law of polarity tells us this is not how the universe works. You have to embrace both sides. Do not feel scared of the bad times. Rather, see them as little blessings. See them as growth checkpoints. The lows are part of a cycle. They're part of how the world works. What do we see every year? Seasons. Summer, winter. They're like polar opposites, but they cannot exist without one another. The cycle of life, water cycle, everything is a cycle. Once you see that, everything is going in a loop to exist. You cannot exist just in happiness. You are gonna go through loops, ups, downs. Sometimes the low times can be and feel longer, but sometimes it's just how much you need to feel it to go in your next cycle. It's like hibernation. The problem happens when you try to avoid it, when you don't embrace it, when you fear it. You are refusing to feel the natural structure of the universe. And that will infuriate you, that will stress you out, that will give you anxiety, and that is not at all what you want. Which is why when you're in a very deep low, the deeper you get, the higher you can get in the other cycle. Think of the water cycle. The longer there is sunlight, the more cloudy, the more rain will come after. Because it had taken this much time, which needs to pour out just as much. This is why people who felt real loss can actually feel real deep gratitude. They see how much life is precious and how we are actually limited in time. We do die, but after every death, there's a life. A new life is formed. Where I want to get to is, how do you use this law? As I said earlier, you firstly don't want to repress any of it. You don't want to stagnate. Stop resisting the hard times. When something difficult arrives and you have to go through a real hard challenge, instead of asking yourself, why is this happening to me? You want to ask yourself, what is this showing me? What are the lessons I have to take from this cycle? What are the obstacles teaching me about myself and about life? The second thing is just using the contrast. What is something that you don't like, and how can you turn it into something you really enjoy? Use the data the universe is sending you. 3. Trust the cycle. No matter how hard things can be, since opposites attract, they cannot exist without each other. It is inevitable for the opposite to happen. You know that when you're going through a hard time, the good will come, and 10 times harder. And you'll actually appreciate it so much every time. And you'll learn something new. Lastly, you have to be grateful. Be grateful for both ends of the spectrum because they give you so much. Don't try to fight it, because even in physics, Newton's third law of motion, what does it say? For every action, there is an equal or opposite reaction. It is inevitable. There will always be the opposite. I talk a lot about quantum physics and physics science. That was it for the law of polarity. It is a known thing, but people don't actually understand how you see it in every single thing, not just life and death, black and white. It is also emotions, sad and happy. But in spirituality as well, when you manifest something, you have an equal or opposite reaction. It all depends on your subconscious. Just remind yourself that right now, if you feel stuck, if you feel sad, and something feels impossible to deal with, you will get through it. The laws of the universe, laws of physics, they all tell you it will get better. And it'll feel even better because you went through such a hard time. So don't feel disconnected from the other end of the spectrum, because you're on the same spectrum no matter what, just on the different side. If this topic in this video was helpful, please like and subscribe. And thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.